Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons and an event that Dungeons and Dragons needs to pay attention to, which is a significant publishing event within the OSR sphere, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness being kickstarted by Palladium Books. I want to talk about where that is right now and what that means for Dungeons and Dragons, what it means for Dungeons and Dragons and for the OSR and indie activity sphere. I have this theory that there really is no OSR industry. There really is no indie industry. There's just an activity sphere. Most of the projects are vanity projects, or like we're about to look at, a nostalgia project. They're not actual businesses that are delivering good product on a like drumbeat rhythm the way Dungeons and Dragons actually does. So very fascinating. So let's talk about this. Okay, so November 26th, 2023, uh, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Another Strangeness was about to finish its Kickstarter. Um, it had 62 hours left, and at that point, it had just went $2 over $1 million. So the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness, Palladium Books publishing through Kickstarter, which is weird in its own vein, and I've already talked about that on this. That's all those words are strange in those orders. Like Palladium's been doing books for 35 years. Why on earth it would have to Kickstarter, anything like it's doing a garage band is bizarre. And also, Dungeons and Dragons doesn't Kickstarter, right? It's a real business. They put on their big girl pants decades ago and haven't used Kickstarter ever, right? And they don't get credit for that, which is frustrating. So, but it is strange that Palladium is kickstarting a book. Like they literally have been publishing books for 35 years. You can go to cons today, and Palladium will have published books that they published this year, right? Came right hot off the printers that they're selling, and so why they needed to kickstart is so strange. But here's the part that's really interesting. Let's get all the way there. So it's $1 million project. Let's talk about that. One, Shadow Dark from Kelsey Dion beat it, right? Like so, because it's not going to pick up another 300,000 in 62 days. I don't think it's going to reach that, right? So I think it'll actually get defeated by Kelsey Dion's Shadow Dark. So Shadow Dark RPG by Kelsey Dion, an OSR project that made $1.3 million in 2023, is truly an astounding performer. I want to kind of look at, I'm trying to look at tabletop role playing game publishing in context of the entire, in context of the D&D industry and the OSR and the industry activity sphere, because the OSR and the industry and the indie activity sphere, they do things like this where Dungeons and Dragons has to look over and say, wait, what's going on, right? And like when they look over, like 1.3 million by Shadow Dark RPG, that's not going to worry. Dungeons and Dragons does $1 million on on a miniatures product connected to one of its canon books, right? Like, I think most canon books are producing between $5 and $25 million of revenue for at least yeah. I think most canon Dungeons and Dragons books are producing $5 to $25 million in revenue for Hasbro, right? It's just my estimations, right? We don't really know the numbers. We trust and believe we don't know the numbers because I'm hyper attenuated to this. And if anybody had good numbers on it, I would tell you they don't, right? We do have some numbers that were literally pulled out of the trash for the 90s that people talk about, but I even think those are sus in my humble opinion. But so what's really fascinating about this Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles project is I was like, wait, they're going to reprint this book? What is Palladium going to do for a rule set, right? And this is where it gets interesting. Palladium doesn't have a modern rule set, right? It is still running riffs on this ancient, crusty rule system, a percentile system, right? Like where you have like 87% on a skill. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, and so they do not have a modern, they literally do not have a modern rule system. And that's a huge, huge, huge problem, right? And so I was like, well, what are they going to run this, this new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and other Strangeness role playing game on? They couldn't possibly publish this on the old rules, right? I was shocked to find out when I looked on the Kickstarter, it is updated and clarified rules. They're going to use that crusty, blow the dust off, horrible rules engine that Rifts runs on right now. That even Rifts was like, oh yeah, of course you can't play this crap on our rule system. Play it with Savage Worlds. Like, it's already been converted to another rule system, right? And like that tells you, right? Like, Savage Worlds was like, hey, your Rifts game over there has got one of the best worlds, but your rule system is utter garbage. Why don't you just sell us your world, and then we'll publish it under Savage Worlds, right? Like, and again, people are like, oh, Dungeons and Dragons is not that good. Dungeons and Dragons has never ever allowed their system to be converted to a different tabletop role-playing game system ever, like, because they have dignity, right? Like, so even Palladium's like, oh yeah, our rule system is garbage, right? So I was like, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to run this by PBTA? Are they going to are they going to do? And I thought they'll make a new rule system, something really light and fun and fast, and then all these new kids, teenagers, college students, adults who are coming in from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem will have something fresh, and and will be able to sit down and actually play a game. So here's the kicker. This entire book is literally the 1985 book, just reprinted with slightly modified art and slightly modified rules updates and clarifications, just fixing typos, right? So the reality is the Palladium rule system is such garbage, right? And you're like, oh, I don't know, Scott. I challenge you, right? I have seen Rifts books for 40 years, right? Close to 40 years, right? I have not seen Rifts at a table in 25 years. Not, and I go to PAX Unplugged. I've been to Gen Con. I go to multiple FLGSs. I have literally never seen Rifts at the table in 25 years, right? Like, anywhere, right? And so what this book is it's just a keepsake, right? None of these books are going to get played, right? The vast majority of these books are going to get bought. They're going to get put on a shelf, and then the entire purpose for this is one 50-year-old to show it for 5 minutes to another 50-year-old, and both of them to reminisce for a minute, and then go, remember when. Like, I could not believe they did not put a new rules engine in this, so that there was even a chance or hope that any new people would play Teenage Mutant Ninjas and Turtles and other Strangeness. It is one of the strangest things I've ever seen, right? And Dungeons and Dragons needs to pay attention to it, because it did make $1 million, right? That's a spark, right? And you're like, hey, we need to pay attention. What's happening here, right? And so that's where this lands. And this one is, and this video is also filed under, oh my gosh, 2023. I have never seen a tabletop role-playing game year like this, and for Dungeons and Dragons, it's been off the chain, and for many other companies, it's just not successful but chaotic, right? Like, unbelievable, right? And the other issue is $1 million seems like a lot, but again, it's really not. This is especially when you compare it to Dungeons and Dragons. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.